We felt a burst of joy when the doors of Grace Brothers opened up and we saw our favorite salespersons from Miss Slocum to Mr. Humphries getting ready to sell their goods to the gentlemen and ladies who came in. Are You Being Served was one of the best British sitcoms of all time, and it's no wonder that it's one of the few to have lasted over a decade in the UK. Join Facts vs. UK to learn about the secrets and scandals behind Are You Being Served. The cast changes. Behind every great Britcom is a great writer or team of writers, and at the forefront of any great show is the cast. Are You Being Served is noted for having one of the best casts of any British sitcom. That included Wendy Richards as the sultry and brash Cockney Mrs. Brahms, Molly Sugden as Miss Slocum, always with an unusual hair color and always concerned about her pussy, the forever military man Captain Peacock, played by Frank Thornton, Trevor Bannister playing the sly Mr. Lucas, John Inman playing the friendly and camp Mr. Humphries, Arthur Brough playing the clueless Mr. Granger, and Nicholas Smith playing the hapless Mr. Rumbold. And let's not forget young Mr. Grace, who, if you think is frail, you should see old Mr. Grace. But one of the scandals that caused a slight dent in the show and was a struggle for the creators were the sudden cast changes. This happened early on when Mr. Mash left the show. Mr. Mash, often disparagingly simply referred to as Mash by the senior members of the staff, was played by Larry Martin. He was one of the janitors in the Grace Brothers store. But after the third series, Larry Martin left the show. The show didn't mention why the character left, and never did you hear his name again. But it was quite clear this supporting character of a bold and cheeky janitor was something audiences loved. It was quite clear that Mr. Mash needed to be replaced, and in came one of the most famous British character actors to replace him. Arthur English played Mr. Harmon from series 4 to 10. Mr. Harmon was also brash and funny and not afraid to stand up to the more senior members. His character became so popular he was given a larger role compared to Mash. But it was a difficult transition for the cast, and the writers made a smart move in creating Mr. Harmon. It was also difficult when Mr. Granger left, owing to Arthur Brough losing his wife. He was so saddened following her death, he decided to prematurely retire from acting. But he simply couldn't be replaced, so no character was created to replace Mr. Granger. To deal with this, the friendship between Mr. Humphries and Mr. Lucas became even bigger, and they made a great comedy duo. Many other cast changes were made here and there, but the one that really made the biggest difference was when Trevor Bannister left the show, and as a result, so did Mr. Lucas. This is because the actor was working on a play and the schedule conflicted with filming a new series. Since he was paid more to work on the play, he left the show. Eventually, Mike Barry replaced Trevor Bannister, but it simply wasn't a match. The show went on, but for many fans, it wasn't the same without Mr. Lucas. They said what? Another scandal with the show was the choice of humor. On one hand, the humor was criticized sharply for being postcard humor and not having some of the sophistication that other UK sitcoms were known to have. But it also received harsh criticism for being perceived as vulgar for an otherwise family-oriented show. For example, every time Miss Slocum referred to her cat, she used a word which has been a common euphemism for cat for a long time. But in the 60s and 70s, certain words began to have new meanings. The writers insisted the word was solely intended to refer to a cat, but many critics felt the word was used to deliberately be vulgar. And there were many inferences to Mr. Humphries' sexuality and whether or not the character was gay. John Inman was gay in real life, but this was never explicitly mentioned on the show. Some members of the gay community felt that the overly camp Mr. Humphries was stereotypical, and some found it offensive. Nevertheless, his role and antics got bigger as the show progressed, and many people stated he was the glue that held the show together. Staying in the shop. Robert Ya-Fu Lee was a talented actor born in Tianjin, China on November 30th, 1913. He moved to England for higher education, then decided to remain in the country, owing to the fact that it provided more economic opportunities than China at the time. He didn't intend to become an actor at first, and did whatever odd jobs he could find. He was clearly in love with cinema, though, and later television, and decided to pursue his acting career beginning in the 40s. For decades, he struggled, only getting a small bit role here and there. In the late 70s, his luck changed. Robert Lee was cast as one of the key characters in the popular British sitcom Mind Your Language. He portrayed Taro, the enthusiastic Japanese businessman who often clashed with Sue Lee, the Chinese student, despite the fact that Robert Lee was Chinese himself. Lee's portrayal of Taro endeared him to audiences, and he became a beloved cast member, showcasing his acting versatility and comedic flair. He also appeared in various British television shows, including Doctor Who and The Chinese Detective. He died on December 1, 1986. He's remembered as one of the first East Asian actors in UK cinema and television, and has paved the way for actors such as Henry Golding, who are stars today. Technical difficulties. There were even a few technical difficulties that caused interruptions with the show. You may remember the end credits always showed the name of the actor with them facing the camera. But one cameraman, Nigel, made a bit of a blunder and the titles weren't synced with the camera. This would have caused the wrong names to appear at the wrong time. But actor Arthur English, who played Mr. Harmon, noticed this mistake and was able to rectify it. He kept it a secret as he didn't want to embarrass Nigel, still quite new in his profession at the time. Years later, Nigel recalled the memory and stated how happy he was that Mr. English kept it a secret until he died. How long will we keep this up? One of the major issues surrounding Are You Being Served was how long the show went on. While this is one of the reasons why it became such a success and why it's still loved today, it can also be a hindrance. After all, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. The show's creators often had to deal with harsh criticism, and with all the issues that went on behind the scenes, they had to find a way to still remain relevant and enjoyable to a new legion of fans. After some time, the jokes were getting a bit old and they were running out of fresh ideas. Eventually, a spin-off called Grace and Favor, also known as Are You Being Served Again, was created. It followed the main cast members enjoying their retirement but still getting up to the same antics. The show was a minor success, but overall it was clear audiences were getting tired. But despite falling rankings and criticisms, they still had good innings, didn't they? The Graces and other characters. One of the major changes that came later in the series was when Harold Snoad left the show, and as a result, we didn't hear of young Mr. Grace. Instead, we got old Mr. Grace, who had many of the same antics and jokes. However, this wasn't as popular a role, and audiences seemed to prefer young Mr. Grace. This was one of the many scandals that occurred on the show that didn't really get fixed. Instead, the writers focused on making changes with some of the other characters. Some of these changes didn't really help. For example, Mike Berry eventually played a character meant to replace Mr. Lucas. He was the young womanizer who was always at odds with Miss Slocum. But this didn't work at all, and though Mike Berry was a huge pop star, no one could fill Trevor Bannister's role. There was also a brief plot line showing that Miss Slocum had fallen in love with Mr. Humphries, which just became strange and eventually faded away. Luckily, audiences were forgiving enough that the show could go on for as long as it did. Now it's time to hear from you. Who was your favorite character from Are You Being Served? Let us know in the comments section below.